Ben McKee, West Rucker, Go Vols 24/7 here at Lindsey Nelson Stadium following Tennessee's 8-3 win over Illinois here on Sunday in the series finale. Tennessee sweeps Illinois. It has now swept 14 of its last 16 non-conference weekend opponents, which is a pretty good number. The winning streak is up to 15. There's one more game left on the homestand. They'll play on Tuesday, and then conference play begins next weekend in Tuscaloosa. But the big takeaway is the Sunday game this weekend, not just because it just happened, but it was the most competitive game, at least I feel like. Although Friday's score was very respectable. But today, the chippiness going back and forth, Tennessee kind of had to come from behind. We'll touch on the chippiness, and it does tie in together, right?
I think it all is kind of
it all ties in together. But before the chippiness really got going, Hunter Ensley coming off the bench and hitting a pinch hit solo home run to finally get Tennessee on the board. Tennessee had one hit over the first 4 innings. Ensley comes off the bench, hits a solo homer, and that sparked things before the chippiness sparked things.
Yeah, and I don't think you could have, if you're Vitello and you asked him, I mean, he doesn't care who does it, but things are different sometimes, and I think if he could have picked anybody to get it going with a home run like that, he would have picked Hunter Ensley, because the best version of Tennessee's defense has Ensley in center field, but he's got to hit the ball, right? He hadn't had a great start to the season offensively compared to some of the other options they have. But quietly the past week or two, he's been barreling up a few more. He's been getting on base. And that was a tremendous at-bat in this game. And it got things going. It turned the game. And who knows what happens if he goes up there and strikes out. So, I mean, credit Vitello, obviously, right? You make a sub like that. He comes in and does what he does. Hey, that'll play, right? But you couldn't have picked a better guy for it to be.
No, and then that's kind of when the chippiness started. There was a little bit of it earlier in the game. Cal Stark and Illinois' catcher swapping words, and both teams got warnings. So after Hunter Ensley hits his home run in the 5th, Blake Burt hits his home run in the 5th and lets the Illinois catcher know about it as he is scoring, touching home plate. Blake gets ejected. He'll miss Tuesday night's game because if you get ejected, you automatically have to serve a 1-game suspension in the next game. The home run cut the Illinois lead to 3-2, but the chippiness really started at that point. And credit Illinois for the way it competed today after losing 24-1 yesterday, but they poked the bear. Whether Tennessee was in the wrong, whether they were in the right, they poked a bear that often when this bear gets poked, it doesn't work out well for the other team.
Yeah, normally I'm a don't poke the bear guy. But when you wear one 24-1, I don't know what you have to lose by poking the bear the next day. But I think it's not just the quick pitching which caused things to boil today. What caused things to boil to start was a 24-1 yesterday, where Illinois, the weather was bad. Tennessee's pitchers handled it. Illinois didn't. They couldn't throw the ball over the plate at times, walks, wild pitches, and the fans were kind of razzing them, and they got a little razzing from the dugout and chirping and. You know, so you go to bed angry about that, and then you wake up the next day, and that's an old team too. It's got a bunch of juniors and seniors, a bunch of solid players on that team. They're prideful guys, man. They don't want to come out here and wear one again. So they came out today a little bit different, and they were, a little chirping, a lot of quick pitching early on, and you know how Tennessee's players react to that. Tennessee's manager reacts like that. They do not like it. Don't know how long I've covered this program since Tony Vitello's been here. You've covered it a little longer than I have, I think. But he never fails to get angry about that. He hates it. And I think that filters down to the team. They don't like it. You don't want a 92, 93 mile an hour heater coming at you when you're not looking. So, yeah, there's an argument to be had there with the pitch clock about how they get those two things, married. But the thing is, you don't walk into the box with your head up. Watch baseball over and over again. I've been around the game my whole life. Nobody walks into the batter's box with their head up. You walk in with your feet down like this, and you get your feet set, and then you look up. Just takes a couple seconds. And there's no reason, in my mind, why a pitcher can't wait those 2 seconds until you get your head up to start pitching. But you're going to have to figure that out with rules or something, because I think Vitello's right. At some point, somebody's going to get hurt.
Well, and my biggest takeaway, aside from all of that, is that Tennessee responded well. And this time last year, when Tennessee was getting ready to go to Missouri, that team does not respond the way that this team did today. So I think that's a great sign of things to come for the team. I think although it was Illinois, it was a sweep, they beat them 24-1 yesterday, that told us a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I think if you're Tennessee, I mean, what's the old thing? Give them a basket of flowers. Like, buy those guys some pizza for their bus trip back to Champaign. I mean, I think you thank them for what they did today, right? Like, you want to talk about getting ready for SEC play? that kind of, vitriol, that kind of chirping, that kind of throwing when you're not looking, that gamesmanship, that was just a scaled down version of an SEC game.
Yep.
And that is perfect because there's a lot of guys on this Tennessee team that have not been through an SEC season and they don't know what's coming. They think they do. They don't know.
It's a different beast.
It's a completely different thing. And they'll get that next week in Tuscaloosa right off the bat. So against a really good team. So that's a really good reminder of those guys because now Tennessee's experienced players can look at those younger guys or transfers and say, hey, this right here, what you think this was, multiply it by about 10, and that's what SEC weekends are like. So I think you thank Illinois.
Yeah, but do you send them pizza back to Champaign, or do you send them back to Champaign with champagne?
Well, I mean, they're probably not 21.
I know.
So I would probably, legally speaking, since we're on camera here, I won't
Right.
say how much I dislike that law, and I'll say that you should give them pizzas.
Absolutely.
And soda pops.
I'm with you there. Maybe some hot dogs like they give us up in the press box before games. A couple of quick things before we get out of here. Just summarizing the offense. Inslee, Burke, those homers sparked 8 unanswered runs. Tennessee wins 8-3 after going down 3-0 early. Eric Combs wasn't super crisp. Kind of been the theme to start his season. Not bad, but not where he would want to be either. And again, he missed some preseason practice because of an arm soreness deal. So I think he's just knocking that rust off. But Tennessee comes back, scores 8 unanswered. Kavaris Tears had the big go-ahead knock after Dalton Bargrove, and Billy Amick had back-to-back walks with 2 outs. That was key. And then Robin Villeneuve, after Dreiling, walked to load the bases as well. Villeneuve smokes a grand slam into the porches. So the offense got going after Illinois woke it up. And then meanwhile, what is overshadowed by all the chippiness in the offense is the job that Nate Snead did and continues to do over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll say really quickly that before I get to Snead, really quickly, that one thing, good teams take advantage of breaks. They get good breaks, whether it's the opponent making a mistake, whether it's an umpire or an official making a bad call. They take advantage of that. And that inning should have ended before Tennessee had a single run on the board because Billy Amick was punched out on a ball that, most of the ball was on. It was a no doubt strike. And it was called a ball. And that should have ended the inning with no runs. But it didn't. And then Amick fouls off a couple, gets a walk. He's gotten a couple more of those this season. That's been good. And then Tennessee gets a couple more walks. And then boom, Villeneuve runs into one. Lindsey Nelson special, grand slam. And those, are in tears with the double, which also was a break because he didn't hit that well. But that's what happens. When you're a good team and you get a break, you make the other team pay for it. And that's big. But Snead, a guy throws a fastball to 101, a cutter 95, a decent change, a slider that plays. Yeah, that's an SEC arm, right? With him and Causey, whoever starts and comes out of the pen, that's another discussion for another day because it's a complicated one for a lot of different reasons. Yep. But Russell when he's back to healthy and Beamer 2 starters in the weekend. Then it's what else do you do? And you got good arguments for both of those guys. If I'm Vitello, I love making that decision because it's a hard one, and you'd rather have that be your problem than not having anybody to pick from. But it's not an easy one.
No, not at all. And we will have that conversation on a Diamond Balls podcast this week. We will be back later this week with that podcast to talk about Tennessee baseball heading into SEC play. That'll be on Wednesday after a Tuesday midweek game against Eastern Kentucky. And of course, in the meantime, we have plenty of coverage of Tennessee sweep up at the site, EchoVols247.com. He's Wes Rucker. I'm Ben McKee.